What if I told you that the best episodes of The Office aren't the ones everyone remembers? Not dinner party, not stress relief. I'm talking about the episodes that quietly redefined the entire show. The ones that changed everything, but somehow nobody talks about. These are the hidden turning points. Moments when The Office evolved from a simple workplace comedy into something far deeper. A show about identity, human awkwardness, and the strange poetry of everyday life. Today, we're breaking down the episodes that transformed The Office, the ones that built its soul, its humor, and its legacy. Stick around because by the end, you might realize you've never truly seen The Office the way it was meant to be seen. To understand why The Office became one of the most influential comedies ever, we have to look beyond the jokes and awkward moments. The show didn't start as a masterpiece. It became one through bold risks, uncomfortable experiments, and unexpected heart. Over the course of 6 key episodes, we'll see how the series slowly transformed, turning chaos into brilliance and cringe into honesty. These are the moments that elevated The Office from a simple workplace mockumentary into something far more meaningful. A show that reflects who we are at work, in love, and in life. Let's start where everything almost went wrong, with Diversity Day. The Office premiered, most people didn't know what to think. The pilot felt awkward, almost too similar to the British version. But Diversity Day, the second episode, is where The Office US finally found its own voice. Here, we see the first glimpse of Michael Scott not as a clone of David Brent, but as a painfully optimistic man who wants to be loved and keeps failing spectacularly. This was the moment the show stopped copying and started becoming something original. The humor in Diversity Day isn't just about race, it's about intent versus impact. Michael wants to bring people together, but ends up offending everyone in the process. The beauty of this episode lies in how it makes us laugh and cringe, not just at Michael, but at ourselves. We start to understand that The Office isn't about mocking people. It's about exposing the fragile absurdity of human connection. Behind every laugh, there's a mirror, and it's uncomfortably accurate. Diversity Day didn't just define Michael Scott. It set the tone for the entire series. Comedy that hurts, but heals. From here on, The Office would balance humor and humanity in a way no other sitcom dared to do. It taught the audience something crucial, that the best comedy isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. The episode that could have ended the show is the one that saved it. Episode 2, The Injury. By season 2, The Office had found its rhythm, but the injury took that rhythm and exploded it. It starts with one of the dumbest premises ever. Michael burns his foot on a George Foreman grill because he wanted to wake up to the smell of bacon. Yet somehow, it's genius. It's the perfect example of how The Office turned stupidity into storytelling gold. Beneath the absurdity, the episode flips the dynamic between Michael and Dwight. Dwight, usually the unhinged one, becomes sympathetic after suffering a concussion, while Michael becomes a parody of entitlement. Suddenly, the roles are reversed. Dwight becomes human, Michael becomes monstrous. It's chaotic, ridiculous, and yet deeply revealing of their relationship. The funniest episode is also one of the most psychologically sharp. The Injury proved that The Office didn't need romance or plot twists to shine. It just needed to let its characters spiral and show us the truth hidden in their chaos. This episode cemented The Office's identity as a comedy that can make you laugh hysterically and still leave you reflecting on your own ego. It's not just a comedy of pain, it's a study of humanity disguised as slapstick. Episode 3, Casino Night. Throughout season 2, The Office slowly built a world of unspoken feelings. Jim's quiet glances, Pam's hesitation, the tension that never quite broke. And then came Casino Night, the emotional explosion the entire show had been teasing for 2 seasons. This was a night The Office stopped being a workplace comedy and became a love story. Jim finally confesses his feelings to Pam, It's awkward, raw, imperfect, everything The Office does best. There's no grand music, no studio audience cheering, just two people who can't say what they really mean. And that's exactly why it hurts so much. The silence between Jim and Pam said more than any romantic speech ever could. That kiss wasn't just a payoff, it was a risk. After that moment, The Office had to evolve. It could no longer rely on will they, won't they tension. Instead, it focused on exploring what love looks like after the fairy tale. Awkward, messy, and beautifully mundane. Casino Night wasn't just an ending. It was the beginning of The Office's emotional core.
Episode 4. The Deposition. For years, Jan Levinson was the unshakable voice of corporate authority, the exasperated straight woman to Michael's chaos. The deposition shatters that dynamic forever. It isn't just a legal proceeding, it's an archaeological dig into the ruins of their relationship, exposing the bizarre, toxic, and strangely symbiotic world they built behind closed doors. This is the episode where the show stops treating Jan as a punchline and reveals the tragic, unhinged person she has become. This was the moment Jan Levinson ceased to be a villain and became a casualty. The humor here is born from sheer, unadulterated horror. Michael, under oath, is trying to be loyal, but his innate incompetence makes him the perfect weapon for Jan's case. His attempts to help, revealing the superficial saleswoman, his oops after mentioning the boob job, are a masterclass in cringe. The episode makes us laugh, but the laughter catches in our throats. It's not just funny, it's uncomfortably real. Behind every legal question, there's a personal landmine, and Michael can't help but step on every one. The deposition did more than just win Michael a lawsuit. It redefined the show's capacity for dramatic stakes. It proved that The Office could navigate a serious, high-pressure scenario without losing its comedic voice or its heart. The episode that could have been a simple legal gag became a devastating portrait of two broken people.
Episode 5, Niagara. By this point, audiences had invested years into Jim and Pam's story. Niagara was their wedding, the payoff of everything the show had built emotionally. But what makes it great isn't the romance, it's the humanity. Jim cutting his tie, Pam tearing her veil, their imperfections made it perfect. It's not the wedding we expected, it's the one that feels real. Amid all the chaos, the dance down the aisle, the awkward guest, the cringe, there's a subtle beauty. It's a reminder that life rarely goes as planned, but sometimes that's where the magic happens. Every mistake feels like a love letter to imperfection. The Office didn't give us a dream wedding, it gave us an honest one. Niagara closed the emotional arc that started with Casino Night. It's where love stopped being a fantasy and became a partnership, flawed, funny, and fully human. And in doing so, it reminded us why The Office mattered, because it saw beauty in ordinary things. The happily ever after that only The Office could make feel real.
Episode 6, Goodbye Michael. Goodbye Michael begins with an illusion. Michael Scott pretending it's just another ordinary day at Dunder Mifflin. He's decided to leave a day earlier than announced, hoping to avoid the emotional weight of goodbyes. It's classic Michael denial, using humor to dodge pain. Every small interaction is laced with subtext. He's tying loose ends, giving subtle gifts, and sharing private moments with the team without ever admitting that this is the goodbye. From the first few scenes, the episode establishes its emotional baseline. Michael's fear of being forgotten, and his quiet realization that he doesn't need to be the world's best boss anymore, just a man ready to move on. This first act works as the mask act, full of jokes, awkward smiles, and denial that slowly gives way to the truth beneath it all. Michael's farewell to Jim, disguised as a normal chat about his plans for tomorrow, quietly flips the emotional tone. We realize Jim knows and that their goodbye is already happening. The heart of the episode lies in the subtle rhythm of goodbyes. There's no grand speech, no forced sentimentality, just fragments of connection, each revealing what Michael meant to these people and what they meant to him. He mentors Andy one last time. He gives Oscar a scarecrow he made himself, a clumsy but sincere gesture. He shares an inside joke with Kevin, dances with Aaron, and helps Phyllis tie a ribbon. Every action loaded with years of shared absurdity. This act shifts from the comedic to the reflective. The camera lingers longer than usual. The silences are heavier. Even Dwight's farewell, framed as an awkward truce, feels monumental. And in between these moments, we sense the show doing something rare, slowing down to let its audience feel the absence forming in real time. The airport reveal, Michael removing his mic, a gesture that says, this isn't for the documentary anymore. It's his way of stepping out of the story, leaving behind the world that made him both ridiculous and beloved. Goodbye Michael isn't just Steve Carell's exit. It's The Office saying farewell to its own identity. After this episode, the show enters a new emotional era. Michael's departure reframes everything that came before. Suddenly, all the cringe moments, the blunders, the forced jokes, they gain meaning through his humanity. He wasn't the world's best boss, but he was the heart that made this absurd workplace feel like home. In the final moments, we see him walking through the airport, quiet, no camera, no applause, just a man finally comfortable being himself. That restraint is what makes the farewell land so powerfully. It's not about grand closure, it's about emotional honesty. Michael's last line, "It's going to be okay," spoken off mic, feels like a benediction not just for the characters, but for the audience that grew with him.
When you look back at The Office now, it's easy to forget how fragile it once was. A tiny, awkward show that didn't know exactly what it wanted to be. And somehow that uncertainty became its greatest strength. Because The Office was never about perfect timing or flawless writing. It was about humans. Messy, uncomfortable, often ridiculous humans trying to find meaning in monotony. And that's why it still resonates. We see ourselves in those awkward silences, in those desperate attempts to matter, and that need to be liked. Each episode we explored wasn't just a step in television history, it was a step in emotional honesty. Diversity Day taught the show how to be bold. The Injury showed it could have heart. And Goodbye Michael reminded us that even the most absurd workplaces can leave us crying over paper sales. The Office didn't just change comedy, it redefined what it means to find beauty in the ordinary. And maybe that's the real magic of it. A show about nothing more than work somehow became one of the greatest stories about life. These weren't just great episodes. They were turning points, the moments that shaped The Office into a masterpiece of human awkwardness, empathy, and truth. And maybe that's why, years later, we still watch it, not for the jokes, but for the people. Because in its best moments, The Office wasn't just about work. It was about us. Which of these episodes do you think changed the show the most? Let me know in the comments. And if you loved diving deep into The Office, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join me next time. See you in the next Couch Bingers.